Hi everyone, Heather here with PersephoneReturns.com, and I am back with your weekly forecast for Monday, March 12th, all the way through to Sunday, March 18th of 2018. And so this week we have a lot of astrology going on, a lot of changes, a lot of astrological aspects, and sort of the main event this week is going to be the new moon in Pisces, which occurs on Saturday. But leading up to that, we do have a little bit of intensity and a little bit of shift going on, in the astrology and in the energy. And so we're sort of starting out this week with kind of a difficult, sort of tense, sort of sobering aspect, right? On Tuesday, we're going to have Venus coming into square with Saturn. And so when Venus squares Saturn, it sort of inhibits our ability to experience pleasure and to indulge ourselves, to do the things that we love to do, to do the things that feel good. It also creates tension and pressure in relationships. It can cause us to feel more of the burden of responsibility in our relationships instead of sort of the supportive, pleasurable, fun, and passionate energy in relationships, which is actually really prevalent right now with Venus being in the sign of Aries. Venus actually moved into Aries last week, which, I missed because I missed that forecast. But with Venus moving into Aries, that's a very passionate, very fiery energy where, people express their love more passionately. And so, that passion is going to be a little bit dampened by the influence of Saturn this week. And so we're going to feel more responsible for other people. We're going to feel more of that burden of responsibility when it comes to our relationships, the burden of commitment, the burden of a little bit of monotony and those types of things, and wanting to break free, right? Because Venus in Aries wants to do new things. It wants to do exciting things within relationship, or it wants to initiate new relationships, right? It's very flirtatious, very spontaneous. It's a very initiatory energy when it comes to your relationship. So it brings more activity, more passion, more excitement. And, Saturn right now is causing a little bit of friction with that, right? So we're feeling like we want to do things that are new and exciting and, fresh with our partners. And we can't quite get there yet because we have some responsibilities to take care of. Maybe, in your relationship, you have to sort of work on your finances, figure out bills, which actually this is a really good week for that. In particular, budgeting, getting rid of sort of luxury items that you don't need in order to save money or to acquire more money, right? Selling things, cleaning out your closet and getting rid of clothes that are a little too flashy or that you just don't wear, you just don't need. Getting rid of excess when it comes to goods and material possessions is actually a really good way to utilize this energy. And if you're utilizing the energy in one way, usually it won't show up as prominently in the other sort of forms that it can show up in. So if you're utilizing this energy to purge, to let go of different sorts of material possessions that you don't need, that don't serve you, to sort of, clear out your closet, to to refine your look a little bit, to make it a little bit more traditional and a little less flashy, something like that. That could be another good utilization of that energy, especially if you have a lot of energy in the cardinal signs. You'll be feeling this a little bit more so. And the cardinal signs, of course, are Aries, Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn. And so if you have your sun, moon, rising, or your Venus in any of these signs, and especially if you're a woman, you're going to be feeling this burden of limitation, this sort of sobering, responsible, pragmatic energy a little bit more so than other people. And it can really put a damper on the passion in relationships. And so, relationships can take a hit this week. But meanwhile, even though it might feel like we can't indulge, we can't experience the pleasure that we want to experience, especially when it comes to our interpersonal connections, maybe there's something restricting and limiting our ability to be with our partners or to, engage in that way. But there will be a really beautiful trine on the same day on Tuesday between the Sun and Jupiter. And this is one of the most beautiful benefic aspects where, we feel very optimistic. The Sun rules our consciousness, right? It rules what's sort of being highlighted right now. And so with Jupiter in a really nice trine with the Sun, we're going to feel much more optimistic, much more expansive in our mindset. So even if things are a little challenging midweek when it comes to our finances, when it comes to our relationships, we'll still be able to maintain, for the most part, an optimistic and a hopeful outlook, right? And so a lot of really great benefits can come through the Sun in a really nice trine with Jupiter, especially in the water signs. It's going to be more about creativity, about our internal mindset, our moods, our conscious awareness of the things that matter, right? When we have Jupiter in retrograde, it's more introspective. So it's more highlighting our philosophies and our beliefs about life. And when we have the Sun in trine with Jupiter, we have a more optimistic sort of vantage point when it comes to our philosophies, our beliefs, our moral values, values, and the way that we integrate these into the world and into the way that we sort of manifest our physical energy into the world. So it causes us to sort of go inward to look at ourselves and our belief systems and the way that we're sort of projecting that outwardly. And so it's looking at our deep-seated values, our deep-seated beliefs, all the things that we harbor internally that are sort of our unconscious motivations, right, to take action and those types of things. That's another thing that we'll be looking at introspectively with Jupiter transiting the side of Scorpio, right? Because Scorpio is our deep motivations. It's like our underlying sort of psychological fears and anxieties. It's the things that we sort of repress and hold in, and it brings them out into the open so we can look at these things a little bit more easily, and so we can work through and integrate that energy. And this is actually a very positive manifestation of this, right? So we can look at sort of the shadow stuff without having to be fearful of it. And once we look at it, we realize that it's not that scary to look at anyway. And that's going to be part of the process as well this week. And so, we're going to be able to sort of face our fears, to face the challenges head on with a little bit more optimism and a little bit more of an expansive, broader perspective, right? Like looking at like, hey, I need to, take care of these responsibilities right now. But if I do this in the future, or maybe this weekend or next week or next month or next year, look how expansive, look how beautiful things are going to be. Look what the future can hold. If I take care of my responsibilities within my marriage, if I take care of my responsibilities within my partnership, if I take care of my responsibilities when it comes to my budget, paying off bills and debts, saving, whatever it is, getting rid of all this excess, right? Look how much freedom this gives me. And so that's going to be sort of the prevailing energy for the first half of this week, which will be, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, even into Thursday, you'll be feeling that. The other thing too at the beginning of this week is that as I'm speaking right now, Mercury is entering its shadow of its retrograde period. And so I will be, of course, diving into the Mercury retrograde when it comes to these videos and, my forecasts and all of that. And I'll be doing a really in-depth sort of walkthrough of the Mercury retrograde and the forecast for all 12 signs on Astrology's channel on Thursday. And I'll post that on my Facebook page, so you can always find that there. But we are entering into Mercury retrograde shadow, right? And so this is when things start to get a little glitchy, a little bit more difficult when it comes to electronics, contracts, all these types of things. There's still time right now. Mercury's still moving quite quickly this week. I would say that, the beginning of this week is sort of the last chance to really move forward with things. Although really you should be wrapping things up this week, right? Because we're coming into the balsamic phase of the moon, at the beginning of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then we're coming into the dark moon at the end of the week, right? Because we're coming into the new moon on Saturday. And so this is really a time of wrapping things up. So this is the last chance to sort of wrap things up before the Mercury retrograde and to really utilize that energy before it really slows down and before it really gets a little difficult. And this Mercury retrograde will be kind of a difficult one, and I'll get into that on Thursday. So you want to be prepared. You want to have your ducks in a row. And so this is the time to do that this week. Get things wrapped up, get things finished up. If there's anything that you've been sort of holding on to that you need to let go of, this is the week to do that as well, because we are coming into this new moon in Pisces. And the new moon in Pisces is going to be at 26 degrees in Pisces. The 26 degree is one of the end degrees of the sign. And so we're at the end degree of Pisces, which is the last sign in the zodiac before we move into Aries, which represents the rebirth of springtime. And so this new moon happens to be occurring just a couple of days, 3 days to be exact, prior to the spring equinox, which happens next week on Tuesday, right? And so this is a very major purge, letting go, endings, right? This is about surrendering. When we're talking about Pisces, we're talking about unconscious patterns that we hold on to that are burdening us, that we're not even fully aware of them. Now is a time when we can really go deep, when we can go really introspective, when we can look at ourselves very clearly, very fully. We can be in touch with otherworldly energies, with energies and sorts of players that are sort of behind the scenes beyond this realm, where we can sort of look at ourselves. We can go deeper during this time period. We can get information through dreams, through psychic impressions, through insights, through visions, through meditation, right? And through those types of introspective sort of practices, we can sort of figure things out and figure out what we need to let go of and purge and move out of in order to be reborn, right? In order to move into something new, beautiful, in order to really be motivated to take action, to move forward, to do the things that we've been wanting to do. So we're looking at the unconscious behavioral patterns, the unconscious psychological patterns patterns, the past karma, throughout the past year, especially, right, since the last equinox, because the equinox of the rebirth of spring is sort of the astrological new year. And so this is the sort of the dark phase of the sun before it's reborn. Well, it's actually been a little bit reborn. So we're coming into that first quarter of the sun, and this is the dark phase of the moon, right? It's letting go, it's surrender, it's introspective. And this is also going to be a deep healing time for a lot of people, especially if you have a lot of mutable energy, and especially if you have a lot of mutable energy at the end degrees. And we'll get into the specifics of what this means for each sign. But in general, this is going to be a conjunction to Chiron in Pisces, which is again at the end degrees of Pisces. Chiron is actually getting ready to move into Aries next month in April. And so this is like the last purge, the last chance to sort of go deep, to go inward, to heal through old Chiron, Piscean wounds, which have to do with playing the victim, with martyrdom, with, religious and spiritual wounds. It has to do with, we talked about this, me and Robert Phoenix, my teacher on Astrology's channel, what Chiron and Pisces actually represented and what we're moving out of and what we're moving into when we come into Chiron and Aries. And he's actually doing a really in-depth webinar on Astrology's channel about Chiron and Aries. So, if you want to jump over there to astrology.com and sign up for that, he's really, really good with Chiron. But anyway, so we're letting go and purging and working through the last of these Chiron wounds. And Chiron wounds, in Chiron in general, that energy brings up a lot of shame, a lot of vulnerability, a lot of guilt. And so we might be dealing with these types of emotions, these types of energies as we come into this weekend, and really it's kind of an awkward energy too, where we don't really want to be out in the world. Where we feel a little bit awkward, we feel a little bit strange, we feel a little bit self-conscious. And so we're dealing with a lot of those self-conscious patterns, old shame, old wounds, old vulnerabilities. And we're going to be healing through these over the course of the weekend. And so this is like a brief period of time where we can really, really go deep. We can really have a good self-understanding. This is one of those know thyself moments where you can really figure out what's been motivating you unconsciously and what's been preventing you from moving forward into the life that you want to live. And so we'll be reborn, at springtime, right? The following week, we'll have a lot of Aries energy. The sun will be moving into Aries. We already have Mercury and Venus in Aries. And so there's a lot of Aries energy coming. So there's a lot of forward momentum, but at the same time, we have to kind of go back and revisit a lot of things with Mercury retrograde just at that start of Aries season. So it's going to be kind of an interesting time period. But in general, this is a time to go inward, to heal. And I wouldn't say that this is a good weekend to go out and party or anything like that, or a good week in general to really initiate new action or to do anything really crazy. It's more about the inner work. It's more about taking that time out to heal, right? To heal through your old wounds and to look at yourself. This is a really good time to look at what has been preventing you, what truly has been preventing you from moving forward with whatever it is that you're trying to do, whatever it is you feel like you need to do with your life. And so it's a very powerful new moon. And there can be some tension and friction there. There's going to be a square from Mars, but luckily Jupiter will be in trine with the new moon too. So that'll, bring in a little, again, even though it's going to be a little deep, a little dark, a little difficult for some people, Jupiter's influence, which, is very prevalent this whole week, is going to keep us optimistic, expansive. It's going to help us to have a hopeful and really beautiful mindset when it comes to what we're moving into, right? So we're clearing things out and we're looking to the future. We're looking at what we want to start, what we want to move forward with, what we want to get going with. And that's going to be a lot of the energy for this week. And so I'm going to go through and do the forecast for all 12 signs. And so I'll be focusing a lot on the new moon because that's going to be really the major energy, especially toward the end of this week. But I will also touch on, Mars moving into Capricorn, which I forgot to talk about. So the same day on Saturday, Mars will be moving into Capricorn. That's actually a nice energy. I like Mars in Capricorn because we can work really hard without going too hard, too fast, and we can really stay persistent and consistent in our actions and in our exercising of will, right? It's not necessarily a passionate fiery sort of energy. especially when it comes to, sexual passions and things like that. It's a little bit more calculated, a little bit more cold, but it's very grounded, right? It's not necessarily the same energy as like Mars in its home sign of Aries, where it'd be like just initiating things and doing things on impulse. This is like thinking things through, doing things the right way, taking the necessary steps and the necessary precautions before taking action and moving into something, and making sure that you have a solid plan in place. And so this is a 2-month time period, give or take, a few days, because it's going to be lasting into the middle of May. And so when Mars moves into Capricorn, it's going to show us in our own charts, right? I'm going to go through and tell you for each sign what this is going to bring. But for each of us, it's going to show us where we're going to feel fired up, where we're going to be wanting to take the most action in our lives for the next couple of months. It's where all the action is. It's where all the initiation is. It's where we feel compelled to do things that are new, right? To take new action. And it's where we can also feel a little frustrated, right? Especially if we have a lot of planets in difficult aspect to Mars while it's transiting that sign. And so, Mars in Sagittarius was more of a, I always like to call it it's like an aggressively self-righteous sort of energy. And we saw that like crazy, especially with Mars transiting all of that Piscean energy over the past few weeks. People, all over the place and on social media, very, very self-righteous in a way that's abrasive and just over the top, guys, over the top. And so that's going to chill out a little bit. People are going to be more focused on their responsibilities. They're going to be getting down to business, getting down to work. This is sort of a workaholic sort of Mars energy. So if you are prone to, taking it a little overboard, working a little too hard, you might be a little bit more susceptible to burnout during this time, especially in the cardinal signs. So again, the cardinal signs are Cancer, Capricorn, Libra, and Aries. And so, for the cardinal signs, I would recommend you're definitely going to need to like do stuff, right? But just chill out a little bit. Don't be too hard on yourself, because you might be more prone to be more hard on yourself if you're not accomplishing and achieving everything that you feel like you need to be achieving, because, that's just kind of the energy and the nature of this transit for you. But so I think that that's, a good general overview of the week. So I'm going to get into the forecast for all 12 signs. And as always, this is a very general, very broad forecast. It's not going to be completely applicable to everyone. Well, it will be to a certain extent, but if you want something that's more detailed, more focused on you and your own life, looking at all the planetary placements in your chart, you can always, always, always book a reading with me. And you can do so at the link in the description below. I just added a whole bunch of new different reading options. And you can always do a single question reading with me too, if you're really concerned about a certain transit, or, the new moon and what your intentions should be, or a specific problem or issue that's coming up in your life. I do the single question readings for only $29. You get a reading for, 15 to 20 minutes where I'm really going in depth and focusing on a very detailed answer to whatever question you have. So again, link in the description below. But so we're going to get started with Aries. And so for Aries and Aries rising, so this is a major period of endings for you guys this week, first and foremost, because you will be having that new moon conjunct Chiron in your 12th house, right? It's letting go and purging and really getting ready to be reborn, because you're coming into, especially for Aries sun sign people, you're coming into your solar return. So you're in the dark phase of your sun in terms of the solar cycle and the solar transits in relationship to your birth chart. And you're also in this sort of time period where it's about endings, it's about letting go in general right now. And so this is going to be, a period where you might have to deal with a little bit of loss, a little bit of surrender, where you have to let go of things that you wanted to hold on to, unconscious patterns that have been helping you to escape and to adapt and to deal with reality by sort of escaping reality, right? And so you have to really deal with the reality of the situation, the reality of what you've created in your life, and to let go of anything that's holding you back from moving forward. And for, Aries people in general, especially at the beginning of this week, there can be a lot of tension in relationships, because especially for Aries rising too, but anyone with Aries, because Venus is going to be in your sign, right? And so Saturn is squaring Venus, and so the tension can be coming from your work, and so your work can feel a little bit more oppressive right now. It can feel like you can't enjoy your passions, your pleasure, your relationships as much because you have a lot of work to do. You have a lot of responsibilities to take care of. I mean, for the next 2.5 years, you're going to have Saturn transiting your midheaven, transiting your 10th house, and so this is going to be a time period where you're going to have to get down to business. You're going to have to put in the hard work. And so you're feeling the burden of that a little bit more so this week. You might want to like indulge, play, do things that are more fun. You might want to, spend time in partnership with your relationships, with your friends, with people that you're close with, and you're just not able to put in that time and put in that effort. It could also be that you're working really hard and the finances aren't coming through right now. And that's okay. It's going to come. With Saturn, things take time. And right now you're just kind of going through a period where you're going to feel that a little bit more so. But, Venus will be moving into Taurus pretty soon, in just a few weeks. And so when Venus is in Taurus and Saturn is trining over to Venus in Taurus, money can come in for you through your own hard work, your own efforts in your career and in your work life. And so, if there is a little financial hang up that goes on this week, just know it's going to pass quite soon, and you'll start to see some of the results of the efforts that you're putting in right now. So if you're working really hard right now to make the changes that you need to make in that area, you'll see the results. The other thing too is that Mars is going to be moving into Capricorn this week. And so Mars in Capricorn for the next 2 months is going to really be motivating you to work really hard. And you're going to be one of those signs that might be prone to burnout. Especially we'll get into that in a whole different video, but Mars will be going into Capricorn, right? So Mars and Capricorn in your 10th house is about wanting to push forward with things. And with Saturn there, you might be pushing forward, and it feels like you're pushing up against a wall, especially over the next couple of weeks while Mars is still at the beginning degrees of Capricorn and transiting over Saturn. And so it's like wanting to push forward, wanting to move forward with things and not being able to do that quite as easily as you would want to. So it's like wanting to initiate something, jump into something new head first. And it's like you just can't quite get it off the ground because Saturn requires that you do things the right way and not the fast way. And so Mars is going to make you want to do things the fast way, right? It's going to make you want to jump in and take that initiative, and you are going to have to start new projects and do new things. And you're going to feel much more motivated to work really hard toward your goals. But, there will be a little sense of frustration, especially over those first couple of weeks where you feel like you're working really hard and you're not seeing any results. But the results will come later, so don't worry about that so much. Just know that if you take the small steps day by day, that things will improve and you will see results, and you will see substantial career growth, especially over these next 2.5 years. But you can even experience a lot of growth over these next couple of weeks. This can also cause disputes, though, with like bosses and authority figures in the 10th house. So just be aware of that. You might get a little in trouble with the higher ups or something. Or if you are in a position of authority, you might be a little bit more aggressive and abrasive, and, you might get into arguments with your employees. So just, take it easy. You expect a lot of yourself and you expect a lot of other people. And, this is not a time to rush, and this is not a time to make, excessive demands on yourself and of others, because you're going to burn yourself out and you're going to burn everyone else out in that process. So just, chill out a little bit if you can. You are going to have to work hard, but make sure you're pacing yourself and you're not being too self-critical and making too many demands of yourself. And again, at the end of this week, the new beginnings, the letting go, it's in all areas of life for you. It's a major, major purge and upheaval. And this is going really, really deep. It's a very subconscious, unconscious sort of energy. And you can work with it consciously if you choose to, right? So if you're focusing at the end of this week on going inward, on spending time in solitude and seclusion, on really doing the deep healing, the deep inner work, journaling, doing, meditations, dream work, whatever it is that you want to do in this area, you can have really profound insights that can really help you to heal through old patterns that have been inhibiting your ability to move forward with life. All right. And so for Taurus and for Taurus rising, so the beginning of this week, you're going to have Saturn in the 9th house, squaring Venus in the 12th. So that's not going to be a huge, crazy thing for you. But it can feel like, there's a little bit of there's an energy where it's sort of suppressing your ability to like learn new things, learn new skills, do the things that you want to do, go deeper into different philosophies, religions, belief systems, to explore and to experiment in that way. And so that can be hindered a little bit. But you do have Jupiter transiting your 7th house, so I don't think this is going to be a huge negative impact on your relationships or anything like that, although you will need to sort of purge when it comes to friendships that are not serving you. As we come into the end of this week. With Mars moving into Capricorn, that's actually going to be in your 9th house too. And so it can feel like you really want to either start and initiate some sort of new education program or some sort of travel where you want to go on an adventure, where you want to learn through your experience, where you want to connect with new teachers, anything really in that realm. You might want to initiate something new in this area. And especially over the first couple of weeks, it might feel again like you're pushing up against a wall, like you really want to start something and get it moving. And it's not quite happening as quickly as you want, but you will have the willpower to really push through and to really make it work. It's just going to take a little bit more time. And so the first couple of weeks can be a little frustrating as Mars comes over Saturn. But in general, this is going to be an energy where you're going to feel really motivated to start learning new things, to explore, to expand, and to have more adventures. And so that's, again, going to be a 2-month period that will be lasting all the way through until the middle of May, where you have Mars transiting the sign of Capricorn. And so it is highlighting that Saturn transit during the first couple of weeks where you have to really work hard towards your long-term goals when it comes to travel, adventure, higher learning, connecting with the right teachers, the right people at the right times. And yeah, and so, that's what Mars is going to be doing. But this new moon is actually going to be in your 11th house. And as I mentioned before, this is highlighting your friendships. And this is highlighting the need to purge friendships that are not really serving you. So anyone who you're connected with who is not who they seem to be, that's going to come out this week. And you'll be able to see that a lot more clearly and a lot more easily, especially coming into the beginning of the week with Jupiter really highlighting that in trine with your sun. This can also bring really great benefits through friendships too. So you can have some really great experiences with your friends, deeper connections and deeper intimacy, and close friendships and close relationships can come across this week. But there is a need to sort of let go of old patterns and old behaviors in friendships, unconscious patterns where you're connecting and clinging to the wrong people and allowing others to manipulate and deceive you. Or to suck your energy, or just, connecting with floaty sort of friendships where people are just not very reliable, right? And that can be a tendency with Taurus rising people, even though you're very dependable, very reliable, very grounded sort of person. With Pisces as the ruler of your 11th house, you can attract people who are very floaty, very ungrounded, very all over the place, very creative, mystical sorts of people, right? Where they're into different spiritual belief systems. They're very creative. They're very intuitive, and they can be, wonderful in that way, and very compassionate, loving friendships that you can have. But at the same time, you're prone to wearing rose-colored glasses when it comes to your friendships, and so you don't always see them quite clearly. And so you'll be able to see things a little bit more clearly toward the end of this week, and you might need to let go of some networks, some friendships, some relationships, and that'll help you to move forward into a much better place, right? To initiate action in the way that you need to initiate action, in the way that you need to feel motivated, in the way that you need to move forward. So anyone or anything that's holding you back this week, looking at that and looking at how you enable these things to happen in your life. Okay. And then Gemini and Gemini rising. So the beginning of this week, there's going to be a little bit of tension in your friendships and in your close relationships. With Saturn in the 8th house in square with Venus in your 11th house, I would say that, deep-seated fears, deep-seated insecurities can pose limitations and restrictions on your friendships and your ability to have close connections and close bonds with people. And so you might feel limited and restricted in that way. There could also be financial burden that prevents you from, engaging in networking and play and fun and indulging in your friendships and your close relationships. So there's going to be a limitation imposed on your ability to connect with people this week. But it's because you really need to work on either your finances or feeling more empowered, facing your deepest fears, whatever it is that comes up for you. It might be a little intense this week with that, but it'll let up, right? So you're going to feel like you can't really go out and play and have as much fun with your friends this week. But the other thing that's happening too is that Mars is actually going to be moving into the sign of Capricorn as well. So Mars will actually be in your 8th house. So you're going to be kind of forced over the next couple of months to really address anything that's been disempowering you in general overall. So any disempowering relationships, anything in terms of financial disempowerment, right? So if you have any debt where there are banks or other people holding money over your head and disempowering you in that way, then that's going to be something that you really need to address as we come into, these next couple of months. And so this is a time period of 2 months where you're really going to be working on becoming more empowered in all areas of life, financially and interpersonally. There could be a lot of power struggles and issues that could come up in marriage and in, finance and those types of things over the next couple of months, arguments about money, arguments about resources that could come through, taxes, inheritance, other people's money, joint finances through marriage, anything like that. And so this is a time period where you're really going to have to look at sorry, my dogs just came in. You're going to really have to look at anything that's disempowering you, and you're going to be able to take really diligent action to work really hard over the next couple of weeks to resolve these issues. And then for Gemini rising or Gemini sun signs, the new moon is actually going to be happening in your 10th house. So letting go of unconscious patterns of behavior that are holding you back from reaching and accomplishing your career goals and from getting the rewards that you seek when it comes to, what it is that you're putting into your work. And so looking at where you're not fully self-aware of your actions and your behaviors and what it is that you are doing when it comes to your work, right? If you have a lack of clarity when it comes to your career goals, that's going to be highlighted, and you're going to have to look at old wounds, old patterns, old vulnerabilities, old feelings of shame, guilt, these types of things that have been stuck with you that have prevented you from moving forward and accomplishing your goals. And so this is a time to let go in that area so you can, start fresh and start new. All right. And you're going to be helped, in this way because Jupiter will be transiting your 6th house. It will be highlighting that new moon, and it will be highlighting the sun, right? It'll be in this really nice trine. And so things can go really well for you when it comes to your work, but you do have to deal with some stuff, right? You do have to look at yourself. You do have to look at your contribution to your failures as well as your successes and how you're really driving everything that happens when it comes to your work. And so instead of playing the victim or the martyr, or like looking to who's causing this, look at yourself, look at how you're contributing to whatever it is that's gone wrong or is not going quite the way that you want it to go when it comes to your work. And then for Cancer and for Cancer rising, there's going to be so first and foremost, that square between Saturn and Venus is coming from your 7th house to your 10th house. And so there can be some restriction, limitation imposed through marriage, through relationship, through some sort of contractual agreement that prevents you from, enjoying the work that you're doing, from doing more creative work prevents you from sort of engaging in your passions when it comes to your work and your career life. And you might feel that burden a little bit at the beginning of the week. This could also be something that comes through partnership or some sort of close relationship or even business partnership that prevents you from, having the money that you want to come in through the work that you're doing. In general, though, Venus, transiting through Aries it can bring a lot of profit. It can bring greater creativity when it comes to your work. It's just a matter of, this week it can feel like there's something hindering that and something that's preventing you from, enjoying your passions when it comes to your work, from feeling passionate about the work that you're doing, and from, getting the resources that you need through the hard work that you've been putting in. The other thing too is that, Mars will be moving into Capricorn. And so Mars moving into Capricorn at the end of this week is going to really be highlighting your relationships. And so, a few different things can happen here. For one, it can really heat up the passions in your romance and your, love life, especially if you're married or in some sort of long-term partnership. This can also bring in a new relationship that's really passionate. Usually it's really exciting at first, but then it sort of tapers off. So it can be a short-lived sort of, romantic fling or something like that if that does come in. It can also cause arguments in relationships, especially over the first couple of weeks as Mars comes close to Saturn. With Mars, and Saturn in a conjunction, which will be happening over the next couple of weeks in the 7th house for you. This can bring it can make it feel like you want to move forward with something in your relationship, but you're hitting a wall and it's not quite going the way that you want it to go. And so, it can bring up tensions in relationships. It can cause friction, but there can also be a lot of passion that comes through too. So there's good and bad with both of this, but it can cause arguments. It can cause a little bit of disruption in that area. For you, for the new moon is happening in your ninth house. And so this is letting go of deeply, deeply held unconscious beliefs, your beliefs about the world, the universe, maybe beliefs about life being unfair, or fate sort of doing things to you where you feel like you're playing the victim, right? And so this is about letting go of unconscious patterns in this way that prevent you from empowering yourself and from moving forward with your goals, and from actually, using your willpower, exercising your will, doing the things that you're passionate about and that you want to do because you feel like you're sort of, subject to some sort of external force or something like that. That's not the only manifestation of this, but that could be dealing with old wounds surrounding spirituality, religion, guru type figures, those types of things that can come up for you too. But releasing old, deeply held philosophies and belief patterns that disempower you and that don't allow you the space to feel like you can act on your will. That's going to be a lot of that energy. Okay. And also this could be something like new beginnings or letting go of something involving travel, like maybe old travel plans or something, or you wanted to like do something and move forward with something in that area and you realize that it's not quite going to work. Or you might make new travel plans. That could be part of it too. And so that's the energy for Cancer. Okay. And for Leo and for Leo rising. So for you guys, this is going to be, so the beginning of this week, we're going to have that Saturn square to Venus. And so that can bring some sort of limitation and restriction to travel, to expansion, to adventure that comes through your day-to-day work experience, your day-to-day routines, and the responsibilities that you have to take on in this area. So it can be that you're just too busy with work, you're too busy in your day-to-day experience. Maybe your health is preventing you from moving forward and jumping in and doing those adventures that you want to do. This could be, over the next couple of months, a really nice time to indulge in some sort of travel in partnership, but it might feel like you can't because you have too much work to do and too much responsibility. That doesn't mean that it'll stay that way. It just means that this week it feels like that. So it feels like you can't have an adventure. You can't, learn what you want to learn. You can't experience what you want to experience, especially when it comes to the things that you love, that help you to feel like pleasure and joy in life through, adventure and through experiential learning and things of that nature. So, but it's not going to last, so just know that this week you're really being called to, get down to business and do the hard work and all of that. And then things will lighten up after the fact. Mars is actually going to be moving into your sixth house too. So when Mars is in your sixth house, it means that you have a lot of work to do. And so these next couple of months, you're going to be very, very busy. You might be busy focusing on a new workout routine. This is a good time to do that for Leo rising people because Mars will be in your sixth house. And so you might feel very motivated to take new action and to start some new workout, physical activity thing that's going to help you to be more healthy and more vital. And especially with Saturn being in Capricorn as well in your sixth house, you'll be much more likely to stick with it if you start something now. This could also cause you to really have to look at your health because it could bring up some sort of, I don't want to say a health crisis, but it could bring up, issues like maybe you get like a little cold or something, or you realize that you really need to increase your vitality, increase your immune system, focus more on your, your nutrition, your diet and all of that. This can also be just you having to work really hard at your work, right? And this can cause, arguments and friction with coworkers. So your relationship with your coworkers can be a little bit more inflammatory over the next couple of months. So just kind of tread lightly in that area. But this could also be starting something new, like a new routine for work where you have to take on a new responsibility. So it's like your work life is changing in some sort of way and you're beginning a new path, you're starting anew. And so that could be, something that comes up over the next couple of months as well. For you, this is going to be a new moon in Pisces in your eighth house. So this is kind of a difficult new moon. It can bring up a lot of really, really deep traumas, deep issues, a lot of past hurts, past wounds that you really have to look at, go inward, and, take care of more introspectively, right? So this is a deep, deep healing new moon for you. The 8th house is one of the deepest healing houses. It's deeply regenerative, deeply restorative, because it heals you from the inside out. It's about looking at the deepest stuff, the stuff that you repress and hide and hold in because you're fearful of it. And it's the stuff that disempowers you the most, right? It's our shadow stuff. It's our fears. It's our anxieties that we repress and hold in that unconsciously inhibit us from, becoming more empowered and from taking control of our own lives. So we're going to be looking at deep-seated fears. You're going to be looking at issues that are hidden below the surface. There could be power struggles that come up during this time period. Any fears or any issues involving finance and joint finances and like debt and other people's money, that could, in inheritance and things like that, that could all come up this week, and you might have to deal with that and let go of something in that realm and in that area. But this could also bring new beginnings in that area too, because you're clearing the way, right? Right now it's about clearing out, but there can be new beginnings in these areas. So if you do the deep inner work, if you heal through the old shame, the old vulnerabilities, the old wounds, if you're not afraid to go there and look at it, spend some time in solitude this week. And I highly recommend that for Leo people in particular, for anyone, all the signs, but for Leo, this is going to be, it's going to require that you go a little deeper and, not hide from yourself anymore, to really, really go there. And so this is going to be a very powerful, very healing weekend for you if you choose to engage with that. All right. And luckily it is being helped, right? So this could be helped from, so if you feel like it's a little bit too much, you're a little fearful, it's going too deep, it's causing you some sort of anxiety, you can really lean on your family this week, because your family relationships are improving with Jupiter moving through Scorpio. So yeah, and you can do some really powerful, very easy ancestral healing this week too. So healing through old family wounds and things like that can come quite easily with this new moon too. So letting go of that, surrendering the past so you can move forward feeling more empowered. All right. For Virgo and for Virgo rising, this is going to be a lot of energy surrounding, well, this is kind of at the beginning of the week, there could be some sort of issue where you want to indulge in passions, indulge in your obsessions, indulge in romance and play. And there could be some financial issues that come up. There could be some restrictions that come through joint finances or taxes or debt or other people's money that you have to deal with and look at. So it sort of inhibits your ability to feel like you can play and, enjoy life and do the things that you love to do that you're passionate about. Again, this is a fleeting aspect, but it's causing you to be responsible and look at things. You have Saturn moving through Capricorn, which is your 5th house, which is not the best for romance for the next 2.5 years. And so that's being highlighted right now, essentially, where you're going to have to focus more on work. This is really good if you have your own business, because it's going to really help you to establish a solid foundation in your business. But, in terms of romance, fun, spontaneity, play, creativity out in the world, it's more serious, right? So it's not as floaty and fun and romantic as it could be. And so this weekend sort of highlights that too. The other thing too is that Mars is actually moving into the sign of Capricorn. So you might feel like you really want to start something new when it comes to like a new hobby, a new form of play, a new form of creativity and self-expression. And, for the first couple of weeks, it might feel like, again, you're pushing up against the wall. But if you take that slow and steady effort, if you give yourself a little bit of time to do that new thing, to start that new project every single day, just little by little, instead of just jumping in all at once, you will be able to, start doing the things that you love to do a little bit more over these next couple of months. And so this could be initiating something that you love. This could also bring issues when it comes to your children or the father of your children if you're a female, and, arguments in that area too. So just kind of be aware of that. You might feel like you have to discipline your children a little bit more harshly. Maybe they're rebelling or, acting out in some sort of way. And so something like that could come up too. And again, this isn't just right now. This is over the next couple of months. But in general, this is really good for acting on your passions and doing things that you love and that you're passionate about. And it gives you sort of the green light to do that while Saturn is sort of repressing that area a little bit. You have a little bit more energy in that realm and in that area. Okay. And then the other thing too is that we have this new moon in Pisces, right? And so the new moon in Pisces is actually going to be in your 7th house. And so this is about relationships. This is letting go just finally letting go of all the old karma, all the old baggage, all the old patterns in your relationships. If you've been holding on to past relationships that are clearly done and over with, if you've been holding on to old baggage, old wounds in your relationships that really, really need to be let go of, this is the time when you're going to be able to do that. You're going to be healing through some really, really deep shame and guilt around your relationships. And doing this is going to free up so much energy so you can have much more compassionate, loving, romantic, connected relationships moving forward. So if you take that time, you go inward, you heal through this weekend, and do it with yourself, right? This isn't necessarily you calling up your ex and, hashing it out or something like that. It could be, but I feel like this is more of an introspective sort of moment. So, healing yourself first before you heal through that relationship. So again, a lot of deep healing in relationships, and this can be helped by having good communication. So if you're in a really good, really solid, stable relationship, having open communication with that person, about your vulnerabilities, your shame, your wounds, your fears in that relationship, that can be actually quite helpful. So good things can come through communication. New relationships can manifest too, but you really have to do the inner work and heal through the old stuff first. Okay. All right. And for Libra rising, so the beginning of this week, there's going to be a little bit of sort of energy around like restriction or limitation in your relationships. And that limitation or restriction could be coming from responsibilities or duties involving the home and family or property or, anything of that nature. This could also be some sort of, business partnership or some sort of limitation in a business partnership. But really, it can feel like your relationships are a little bit more of a burden this week, or that your home and family situation is putting a burden on your relationships. And so that's going to be kind of the energy at the beginning of this week. You do have a really nice, optimistic energy when it comes to, when it comes to your finances, first and foremost, because you do have Jupiter in your second house, right? And so your finances and your work and all of that, it's going to be highlighted at the beginning of this week as well. So you'll feel very hopeful and very optimistic in that realm and in that area. The other thing that's going on too is that Mars is moving into Capricorn, which is transiting your fourth house. And so this can bring, it can make you feel really motivated to take action in the home or take action when it comes to your family, your children, your partnership. But it could be that, you feel like you want to rearrange or remodel or renovate your home or purchase a new home or move. Those are all things that would be supported by this transit. But it might feel like at the beginning that you want to do things really quickly and you have to really take your time and do things the right way. So it might feel like if you're trying to rush in and change everything really quickly, start something new when it comes to your home or, your family situation, it might feel like for the first couple of weeks in particular, especially, that you're pushing up against a wall. But you have a 2-month time period where you have the green light to start whatever you want to start when it comes to your home situation, your family situation, where you're really going to be wanting to make changes, to initiate, to do something new. You're going to be much more active around your home environment during this time period. Even if you're not renovating or doing anything new, you're probably going to be wanting to, work on the yard, do things around the house, all of that. It's going to be very difficult to sit still when you're at home and when you're in your place of rest. It's not going to be very restful because you're going to feel a lot of energy in that area and a lot of motivation. This could also be disputes that could come up with the family members over the next couple of months. So just kind of be aware of that. Tread lightly in that area if you can. If it's a dispute that you need to have, right? If you haven't been asserting yourself, if you haven't been speaking up and you need to speak up, you'll be able to do that much more easily. So that'll come up as well. So this Pisces energy is going to be in your 6th house of work. So it's letting go of old wounds, old shame, old vulnerabilities, anything that you need to let go of that you're you've been unconscious of in terms of your daily routines and daily habits. This could be letting go of unconscious behavioral patterns that have been inhibiting your ability to get healthy in the way that you want to, because the 6th house is the house of health and nutrition and health and nutrition routines. This could also be letting go of, just having really loose sorts of boundaries when it comes to your coworkers and your work relationships, loose boundaries when it comes to your work schedule and sort of the way that you engage in that energy and those activities. opportunities, but it's going to be letting go of something with your work, right? Letting go of responsibilities in your work, letting go of anything, old wounds, old unconscious patterns that are preventing you from moving forward when it comes to your work experience, especially in the day-to-day sense, right? Not just the overall career, but when it comes to what you want to accomplish on a day-to-day basis and what you want your day-to-day routines to look like, letting go of anything that's inhibiting you from actually moving forward with that. And this could, again, be for you, for Libra rising people in particular, this could be a deep healing transit where you're healing old sorts of illnesses even from the inside out, right? You're looking at the unconscious patterns that are contributing to this illness, your role in this that you weren't aware of before. And so this could be a time period where you do a lot of deep introspection. You look at, the emotional patterns, the behavioral patterns, anything that you've been holding on to that's been preventing you from healing truly and fully. All right. And for Scorpio and Scorpio rising, so this is going to be kind of an interesting energy here. So for Scorpio rising people, first and foremost, the difficulties are going to be stemming around communication and your day-to-day work experience. So you might feel like you want to have a lighter, easier time, more balance, more equilibrium, more harmony, more beauty in your day-to-day work experience, more creativity, better relationships with people. If you work with clients, it could be, just wanting to improve and have, really nice, solid client relationships and things like that. And with Saturn in the third house, there could be issues with communication that inhibit that and that prevent you from, creating the balance and the harmony that you want to create at the beginning of this week. And so, you might have to work a little bit harder. You might have some sorts of miscommunications that come up or something along those lines where it throws you out of balance. And, it'll be easy to come back into balance, especially after this week and all that. But there is going to be a need to find balance when it comes to your work and some sort of difficulty in communication or in some sort of skill that you're learning or something along those lines that prevents that from occurring. And it could also be, in terms of your health, right? Wanting to come in back into balance and equilibrium when it comes to your health and your health routines. And you have a lot of communication, a lot of work to do, a lot of skills, a lot of day-to-day mundane, monotonous things that you have to take care of that sort of prevent you from engaging in that way, from, creating those beautiful, more balanced routines for yourself. And then Mars is actually going to be moving into your third house. And so Mars has been in your second house. So it's been like really driving you to, create resources for yourself, maybe some disputes and some issues that have come up for you when it comes to money and resources and things like that. But now Mars is actually moving into your third house. And so that could be, first off, you wanting to initiate some sort of new, learning a new skill, right? A new education program of some sort. This could be wanting to initiate some sort of new marketing strategy or some sort of communication that's really important. Over the next couple of months, communication is going to take the forefront. You're going to be communicating much more bluntly, much more directly, a little bit more aggressively and abrasively at times. And this could be, disputes that come through communication, right? So a lot of really heated debates, a lot of heated arguments, a lot of people sort of coming at you really aggressively or out of nowhere where you're like, where did that really come from? Or you speaking in a manner where you don't even realize that you're speaking in a way that's very abrasive and very blunt and people are not receiving it well. But this is really good for writing and for especially writing like short things like blogs and short stories and emails and like short communications. This is going to really give you the motivation to push through, especially with like bureaucratic stuff too. So if you have like a lot of paperwork or tax forms or whatever it is that you need to move forward with, this is going to really help you to get the ball rolling and to take care of all of these things in this area over the next couple of months. But a lot of energy around communication. If you are someone who writes, it could be a very prolific time for writing, for teaching, especially teaching practical skill sets. So if you want to initiate some sort of teaching program or if you want to learn some sort of new skill, especially if the skill involves communication in particular, so like a language or some sort of very sort of accessible skill set where you can use it in a day-to-day basis, because that's more the third house. It's practical skills instead of sort of the broad, more expansive learning. And so the next couple of months, you have the green light to do that, and you might feel very motivated to do that. And for this new moon, it's going to be in your fifth house. And so, it is really nice because it's going to be in a nice trine with Jupiter in your first house. So I think for Scorpio people in particular, this is going to be a little bit of a nicer experience. I think for everyone, it's not going to be a bad experience. I think this is a really good time to go inward and to really look at things. But this could be a very creative new moon for Scorpio and for Scorpio rising. This could be a very romantic and dreamy new moon for Scorpio and Scorpio rising, where you're really engaging in romance. Also, this is healing through old wounds, shames, and vulnerabilities when it comes to old romance, or your sort of anything that's hindering you from being able to engage in play, to connect with your inner child, to do the things that are creative and expressive that you love to do. If there's any sort of shame or guilt around that, you're going to be able to address that and deal with it, so that way you can move forward and create what you want to create in life. And this could also be some sort of new beginning or letting go when it comes to your relationship with your children, if you have any. So letting go of old patterns, old wounds, old shame, and old vulnerability when it comes to your relationship with your children or the father of your children, and moving past that so you can move forward. And so you can create a more loving, compassionate connection with your children moving forward, because that's what Pisces is all about, right? It's that love, it's that compassion, it's that deep form of connection where you merge yourself with everyone else. And so this could also make way for, better romance, more passion and compassion in romance, if you're letting go of old romantic wounds too. But this is really purging and letting go of any creative blocks, anything that's preventing you from enjoying your passions and the things that you love. For Sagittarius and for Sagittarius rising, this is going to be, let's see here, what's going on. So you might be wanting to come into a greater sense of balance, harmony, equilibrium, when it comes to your romantic life. And so there could be something financial that's preventing you from engaging in your passions, engaging in the things that you want to do, engaging in your creativity, because really you want to indulge with, Venus in Aries in your 5th house, indulge in the things that you love to do. But finances are going to be taking sort of the forefront of your consciousness. And so it could be that there's a limitation and restriction in funds to, do that new project, to do the things that you feel like you want to enjoy. It could be that you have to save money for it. So you have to save up before you can actually jump in and do these things. And so there's some sort of limitation there where you feel like you can't have that romantic experience. You feel like you can't have that playful experience. You feel like you can't have that creative experience that you want to have. And, the burden, the limitation, the restriction comes from finances, and just not having maybe the means. Or you do have the means, but you want to save, right? You're trying to be responsible and save up for something bigger. Mars is actually going to be coming into your 2nd house. So this month, you're going to feel really, really motivated to get your finances in order. And especially the first couple of weeks, this is a 2-month transit, not just this month. So all the way till the middle of May, but especially for the first couple of weeks, you feel like you're really, really working hard and you're not seeing the results right away. So maybe you're picking up some overtime or you're working longer hours, and, the money's just not coming in as fast as you want it to. But you'll start to see the results, especially, coming into the next couple of months. So that will pick up and it will get a little easier if you do feel those frustrations the first couple of weeks there. But there will be a lot of energy and a lot of momentum around creating finances and resources for yourself. This can also bring disputes about money and resources, so just kind of be aware of that. It doesn't necessarily bring troubles. It just brings, maybe arguments with a spouse or something, or arguments with a creditor. And so and then there could be something that you want to initiate too with your finances that's new, like a new savings account, a new bank account, new investments of some kind. And so this is a time when you're going to really be motivated and pushing forward to do that type of thing. And then the new moon is going to be happening in your 4th house. And so for Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising, this is dealing with healing through old wounds and vulnerabilities when it comes to your family, when it comes to your home, when it comes to your ancestral lineage. So anything that you feel shameful about, anything that feels vulnerable, anything that you feel guilty about when it comes to your past relationship with your family, and any old unconscious patterns that you've been holding on to that are preventing you from moving forward with the life that you want when it comes to your family, your home, and your property. You're going to really be looking at that this weekend and letting go and releasing and working through these issues in order to heal and in order to be able to move forward and manifest what you want in this area, and to have deeper, more compassionate, more connected, loving relationships with your family members, which can come about through this process of healing that comes through next weekend too. And so that's going to be a lot of the energy. And so spending time at home with your family this weekend is definitely advisable. Connecting with your family and your loved ones in a way that's loving and compassionate, but also, working through some stuff, right? So looking at the things that you're holding on to unconsciously that are preventing you from fully enjoying your family life. For Capricorn and Capricorn rising, this is going to be first off, you might be trying to create a greater beauty, greater balance, greater harmony and equilibrium in your home life. And there are some personal responsibilities and restrictions and limitations that are coming from you, actually. It's probably your mindset or something, really, that's preventing you from doing that. But it can feel like you want to create better balance, you want to create better harmony, and just a greater sense of equilibrium overall when it comes to your property, your home environments, and your family and your family situation. And, it can feel a little restricted, a little limited. Your relationships with your family members can feel a little burdensome, at the beginning of this week. But you do have a lot of optimism coming from your relationships, your networks, and communication that's going to help you to feel better about everything that's going on. So if your family relationships are a little wonky this week, your friendships are what you lean on, right? Communicating openly and compassionately and lovingly with your friends. And this Mars is actually going to be transiting your sign too. So this is really the green light for you to initiate whatever you want to initiate. When Mars is transiting your sign, you feel very motivated to take action. You can feel more frustrated too during this time, and your temper can be a little bit more quick. So you might find yourself kind of going off a little bit more so than you normally would. You're not as cool, calm, and collected as you normally would be. You could be a little bit more hot-headed. And so if you're not releasing this energy through physical activity, exercise, through taking some sort of initiative, taking action, whatever it is that you want to do, then it can come across as like arguments, fights, and disputes. And usually it's coming from you. And you might not even realize that. So that's just something to be aware of too for the next couple of months. The thing that's going to be, so the new moon that's on Saturday is going to be in your third house. And so this is letting go of old wounds surrounding your intelligence and communication and your communication style. With Pisces on the third house cusp, it indicates, there can be a lot of confusion surrounding communication, surrounding learning practical skill sets and things like that. There could be some sort of old shame, old wound, old vulnerability. And this is also looking at your beliefs, right? Your mindset. Not your beliefs necessarily in the sense of the ninth house, but your mindset, your day-to-day mindset, the way that you frame things, the way that you think about things. And so a lot of sort of looking at your mental patterns, right? The sort of unconscious ways that you rationalize things and all of that. So a lot of letting go of old wounds and old vulnerabilities in that area. There could be some communication that comes in that could be deeply healing for you too this week. And, that can come again through your friendships. And so that could be a very powerful, very positive manifestation of this energy as well. All right. And for Aquarius and Aquarius rising. So first and foremost, there could be some sort of, you might be wanting to do something new when it comes to communication, creating better balance in your communication with others, wanting to communicate with a new friend or something along those lines. And there might be some sort of restriction, limitation, probably self-imposed, but it could be, from an outside source as well, where there's a little bit of tension in your communication with people and in your day-to-day sort of communications at the beginning of this week. You will feel your optimism comes through your work though. So the good things that are happening this week for you are coming through your work, through your career, and also, in terms of money, you can manifest some money this week. Like something could come in from the work that you did previously that you weren't really expecting. So before I get into the new moon, Mars is actually coming into your 12th house. So this is really a time when your willpower and your ability to take action can be a little hidden away and a little bit suppressed, where it feels like your motivations might be more unconscious. So you might be more unconsciously motivated to take action and you don't really know why you're doing it. And that can sort of lead to sort of unexpected results that are a little less than desirable. So, this is not really a good time to initiate anything big this month, because you will, or over the next couple of months, because you'll have Mars in the 12th house, unless those things involve like 12th house themes, like hospitals and, ashrams and spiritual retreat and spiritual exploration and engaging in some sort of new spiritual discipline. Those types of things are actually advised. Also, Mars in the 12th house indicates the potential for hidden enemies. So somebody might be working sort of behind the scenes against you during this time period. So just kind of be aware of that as much as you can, because they are hidden. But there's something, that could be behind the scenes and below the surface that's, working against you and working against what you're trying to accomplish and achieve in those areas. you will have the new moon happening in the second house. So this is letting go of old hangups, old beliefs, old shame, old wounds, old vulnerabilities around money and finances. And these old belief patterns, these old ways of being are, preventing you from creating the material wealth or the resources or whatever it is that you want to create in terms of that area that it's just not working for you, right? So letting go of these old patterns of beliefs around money, letting go of this old shame, this old vulnerability, these old wounds surrounding money and your finances can free up a lot of energy for you to bring more money in, right? So to start something new in that area, to create more wealth for yourself. And so looking at, the way you deal with money and your beliefs around money, that's going to be part of this new moon as well. And so letting go of anything that's not serving you in that area so you can bring in something new and more adaptive that can help you to sort of move forward and to take the initiative and to carry out whatever it is that you want to carry out in terms of your financial goals. Okay, and then Pisces and Pisces rising. So for you guys at the beginning of this week, it could feel like there could be some financial stuff that comes up where you feel limited or restricted in your finances and your money and your resources in some sort of way, but that'll lighten up and loosen up. You'll find a solution to this problem. It might take a little bit of work and a little bit of effort on your part, but if there is an issue that comes up in that area, it'll be cleared away quite easily. But there could be a little bit of tension in that realm and in that area. And so it might be that you're trying to save money or come into some greater balance or, whatever it is with your financial situation, and it's just not quite working and you're not getting the rewards that you seek. And, that can be a little frustrating, but, again, if you keep working at it, in a couple of months, that's going to be past, right? And even in a couple of weeks, that can pass. But right now, it's going to feel a little bit limiting, a little bit restricting. And with Venus in your second house, there is potential for money to come in. So don't worry so much about that if that is an issue that comes up for you. And then let's see here. So Mars, sorry. Mars is moving into your 11th house. And so, with Mars moving into your 11th house, you might feel more motivated to seek out new friendships, to connect with people, to connect with new networks, to join new clubs, to join new networking groups and things like that for your work, which can help bring in finances and resources too. But it could also bring disputes and arguments with friends, and people that you're close with. And so just kind of be aware of that as well. You might feel a little bit more hot-headed when it comes to dealing with your friendships, or your friends might start arguments with you. So, just tread lightly in that area. But the way to utilize this energy positively is to do new things with your friends, have new exciting adventures with your friends, jump into something new, make new friends, right? That's part of it too. So initiating things when it comes to friendships and social groups and social networks over these next couple of months. And sort of the optimism this week comes through your sense of adventure. Maybe you're planning a big trip, or you're starting to learn something new, like a higher education sort of skill. So maybe you're starting some sort of new higher education, you're starting some sort of new philosophical or spiritual exploration, and that helps you to see the broader perspective, the bigger picture, to keep more optimistic about what's going on here. You'll be very, very able to see the bigger picture this week in general. So you'll have a better perspective on what's going on if you do have any difficulties, which, for yours is not that difficult. It's just more financial, if anything. And it could be some disputes with friends and things like that too that could come up toward the end of the week in particular. But for your new moon, the new moon is actually happening in your sign. And so this is really, really going deep into any old wounds, any old behavioral patterns, clearing away of karma, clearing away of any old belief systems about yourself and the way that you need to be engaging in the world, any old shame and awkwardness around your appearance, the way that you show up in the world, the way that you manifest, in the world physically. And so it's more of a personalized sense of shame or guilt that you might be dealing with and healing through this weekend. And so if you clear out any old patterns, old belief systems about yourself that are not serving you and that are sort of inhibiting your confidence, then you'll feel much more empowered and much more confident to do the things that you want to do and to initiate the action that you need to initiate moving forward. And so this could be actually a very powerful new moon. And if you have your birthday anytime over the next, especially close to the weekend, so I would say, 14, 15, 16, 17, around that time period. So I would say 15th through the 19th. then you're going to be, having this solar return new moon thing. So this is going to be a year-long period of a reset for you. It's a rebirth, and it's going to be a year-long period of healing because Chiron is involved. So you're going through a deep healing process. You're going to have to deal with your stuff, deal with where you're playing the martyr, playing the victim, where you're escaping from yourself, when you're escaping from reality through drugs, alcohol, addictions. Those types of things can absolutely come up for Pisces right now. You're going to have to look at yourself. And if you're afraid to do that, then, this is going to be a little bit difficult for you. But if you're willing to do that, and you're willing to really do the work, and you're really going inward and doing that introspection and learning yourself a little bit better, then, this could be a very powerful time period for you, and a very powerful year of healing for people who have birthdays around the new moon on the 16th. So that's for Pisces and Pisces rising. And so that's all 12 signs, guys. All right. So, thank you so much for, watching and listening to this video. If you like the forecast that I did, feel free to just subscribe to my channel with the little red button below. I always like when you guys do that. And I will be back next week on Saturday with another weekly forecast. And in the meantime, you can always follow me on Facebook. I do written forecasts, and I pop in sometimes and do videos on there. And so you can keep up with what's going on in the astrology. And I will be doing an interview with Griselda Pacheco, who is the founder of Sex and Judgment, The Conversation, and that will be posted next week for the spring equinox, so you guys can look forward to that as well. So I hope you all have a beautiful, wonderful week, and if you have questions, feel free to post them in the comments below. You can always email me as well, and so thank you all. Bye.